Welcome to Techmark Pod, where we innovate, discuss, and discover the dynamic intersection of technology and marketing. In each episode, we explore how businesses can leverage both to drive growth and innovation. Meet Alvin, our esteemed host for Techmark Pod. With over 15 years of experience as a renowned marketer, project manager, and software as a service architect. Join us as we uncover the unique value proposition of integrating technology and marketing strategies, helping you stay ahead in this fast-paced digital world.
Hi everyone, welcome to Techmark Pod. Today I'm joined by Kesh. I met Kesh on LinkedIn and I read through her profile and I thought Kesh will be one of the best guests that we might have this year.
Wow.
So Kesh, welcome to Techmark Pod.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me, connecting, and hosting me today.
Awesome. So as a tradition, we always want our guests to introduce themselves because I might really not introduce who you are, but you know yourself better. So yeah, over to you.
100%. Hi, everybody. So I'm Kesh. My full name is Kubeshni Govender. I'm currently the executive group head of brand and channel at Metron Holdings. I'm very enthusiastic about women empowerment, mental awareness, as I'm a mental health ambassador and survivor myself. So there's a lot of community work that I like doing. As I mentioned, I have 2 NPOs, or you will see that on my profile. And I'm very, very passionate about the IT space and very excited to be here today.
I think there is a relationship between IT and MPOs, I think, and you prove it, right?
And the technical, there's always a technical sense behind all the brands, right?
All the brands, yeah. So we're gonna start from, I think, let's talk about where this started from. Your dream to become possibly a brand and channel manager, executive. It's executive manager. Oh, okay, cool. And then, of course, the birth of the NPO. So we'll start with your profession at the moment. Yeah.
So, the profession just happened by chance, actually. Like, when I got into the space, you're always going to look for an opportunity just to prove yourself. I got into the space where it was just concentrated on hardware. I was in the technical department at a company called Servist. Started also with an intern opportunity there. So you're obviously going to want to prove yourself, but you learn a lot of the grounds about business when you go very early into customer care. And therefore I went into finance thereafter and really loved it, and explored the love for my numbers. Being retrenched thereafter, like I said, I got by chance into the IT space. I had an opportunity via Microsoft and their Gold partner at the time. And once I got into space, I knew nothing about marketing. It was just a first opportunity and I gave it my all. So being in that space, I decided I had a love for the IT space, just understanding the ocean of opportunity that technology has. It's constantly evolving as we speak. So when I got into that space, your role naturally kind of evolves into love and the passion of it. I understood and took marketing a lot more seriously. I think marketing is beyond pretty pictures, because people think that you just do pretty pictures and it's all about just editing and designing. It's really not just that. That's just like, the smaller front end things. But then you've got a point in time where marketing has a lot more technical sense involved, like from a strategic point of time with the business and who your vendors are and who you're working with. And that becomes a little bit more interesting. Later on, I decided, because I do so well in terms of interacting and connecting well with partnerships, your vendors, and connecting the spaces for opportunity in the business, I decided that channel was something I really also wanted to be more involved in. So you'll see throughout my timeline of my history in my career, it's always been head of marketing. And then, when you meet a very good leader in the space, they look at everything that you really want to do. So hence how I got the executive group head of channel and brand title.
I think there's a practical part of marketing that they don't teach you at school.
Yes.
Where we work with more of assumptions that we have learned, but when we do it in the IT space, it's different. So one question, do you think leaders are born or made?
I think it's a bit of both.
Okay.
I think there's a natural sense that, you'll find kids, how inquisitive they are. They're born leaders when they lead the pack. When you see them just with their friends, there is a sense of that you're born with. But when I say that leaders are made, it's who you are being mentored by. who you've been empowered by.
Okay.
And I can tell you that in this space, I feel that I'm a bit of both. I'm a born leader.
Yeah.
I've always made my way. I've always found a way. I've always, just what was out there. That was
Yeah.
something I've always done from the time I was little. But when I got to the IT space specifically,
Yes.
I realized who leaders are and what they are. Because when you're an intern, you're a small fish in the sea. So you don't really get noticed. You don't really get credit as much. You basically there to learn. And no matter what you do, you probably won't be recognized that much. But I realized in the Microsoft space, there was definitely a guy, and I'm using his name, but I'm sure he won't mind. Kesh Moji. He was our partner development manager at the time. And I learned a lot about leadership through him because it was the basis of respect. If someone had spoken to me very off guard, he would be like, please, can you apologize to my intern right now? That's not how you speak to someone. That showed me a lot of how it shouldn't be in the industry that, just because on a hierarchy, that you should treat anybody any different, even if it's a janitor. You should have that level of respect. He showed me that. And the one thing he did tell me,
it's almost like your Ubuntu. You need to have Ubuntu.
Exactly.
Basically.
And I said to him, he told me, he's like, Kesh, you need to understand this, that if you don't stand up for yourself, you will always be walked over. So you also have to create that sense where people need to define that respect, that boundaries. That was one of it. But he also had noticed a lot about who I am and what I'm doing, and that I've got a lot more to me than just this internship opportunity. And hence that was the point in time where he had spoken to my CEO at the time, at the partner, and he said, listen, I don't think Kesh should be anything less than head of marketing. And that's how the head of marketing position came. And if it had not been for him at the time noticing me, then I'd probably be very far down the line.
Definitely.
Right now to where I am, because you don't get those positions overnight, I
think it brings about the idea of, like you said, a mentor or somebody identifying your strength and your weaknesses and your potential.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because for some of us to even make it to whatever position that we made it, I can tell you now, my manager back then, they believed in me.
Yes.
To say, okay, you can be a project manager. And definitely that worked. You know what I mean? So what's the difference now that you are now an executive at the brand and channel? What is your role when it comes to marketing? That is the branding part. And what is the role of marketing within the channel? Does it involve tech as well? Because now it sounds like Matic, like you're doing marketing and technology at the same time. How do you define this role?
So it's a very interesting role for most marketing roles compared to other industries. Yes, the tech is very much involved, because I always tell my team, especially when they come in very newly into the role and trying to understand their role in marketing, you cannot market if you don't understand the technology. Because if you are writing, if it's something basic like an article, if you don't know how that connects, how it plugs into everything else, how it's going to make a difference in the customer's business, you cannot write that article successfully.
Definitely.
And that's why I always say you have to understand what the technology entails. What are you talking about? And you have to do some extensive research yourself. You also maybe have to do spend a little bit more time with the pre-sales team to understand the demos and how this will work, so that you can draw the distinguishment between the two worlds, kind of bringing the message to a customer that's non-technical for them to understand the opportunity. Because if you speak too technical, you're only looking at a small audience.
Definitely.
And then the rest of the customers are non-technical. Doesn't mean that these people have these C-level titles that they'll always understand the tech. No, they're there to understand the business, the operations of the business. And you are supposed to guide them as to how that tech would make a difference in their business. Yeah. So for me, that is a very critical part in the marketing space when you're in the IT space. You have to understand the technology. You can't just say, I'm advertising Colgate. This is all the benefits of Colgate now. This is what it can do. It's very straightforward. I'm not saying that marketing position is a lot easier than ours. I'm just saying that the marketing space is very tricky when it involves technology.
So I think it's a challenge that I've already faced as a business owner, whereby I have a very good understanding of tech.
Yeah.
And I understand I want to sell Microsoft 365 to a small and medium enterprise.
Yes.
But then you possibly get an intern or someone else to train to understand that. They just don't understand how to sell the solution.
100%.
I think it takes a little bit of a long time for them to get to a position where they can be able then to sell that solution to the client. I don't know how long it took you, but would you think that maybe before you sweep the tree, before you sweep under the tree, you shake the tree?
Yeah.
Start from the bottom.
I think
You go up.
it's linked again to your leaders, because my leaders at the time showed me everything I needed to know to become strong enough to take on the position. But when it came to understanding what needed to be done around the tech, I had to find that out on my own because they were too busy. It's not that they didn't want to. It's just that they were too busy to explain some of the things from ground up. So yes, it helped with the internship opportunity from Microsoft for them to explain a little bit more, but it wasn't in depth. It was more marketing focused, right? So a lot of the things I learned over the years, which is now me 6 years in the space, it was self-taught. You have to go and push the parameters, find out if you didn't know. Like, even if I'm talking to you right now and you mentioned some acronym where Microsoft has a lot of acronyms, I had to go back and say, what was this? What does it mean? Like, I had to go and get that knowledge. Today, when I sit with my teams, I don't just distribute that knowledge. I also make them try to understand, push the learning curve, give them the platform, the tools. And then thereafter, when they come back and if they failed or they passed, then I tell them, yes, this is either right, this is correct, to guide them, because that's how you learn. If you just distribute a knowledge today, it doesn't mean that you want to hoard it. It means that you simply want to teach everybody to push the learning curve, right?
Definitely.
That's one sense. The second sense is that I'm making it a little easier for my team to connect and understand technology a lot better. So, for example, like we went to a recent event, I think it was in February, that we hosted, and we had a group of C-levels that we were presenting to. Bear in mind, in this space, customers are being pitched to all the time.
Of course.
And remember, there is multiple partners in the Microsoft space that are pitching the same thing. So they're hearing it and they're going blue in the face all the time. So as a marketer, you have to understand that these approaches need to change and you need to be different. You need to find a competitive advantage somewhere. Yeah. And what was different in this event is that our approach was different. We weren't there to sell the product.
Yeah.
We're there for them to understand the partnership. And how that synergy works, because when you onboard a customer, it's a form of partnership. We are here to guide you, right?
Definitely.
And I showed them the entire Microsoft system in one slide, literally one slide, and not where we've got every little detail of logos, because there's multiple of them, but for them to understand how each product is born and where it comes from. Where does it connect? How is it going to change your business? And that was the differentiator in the room, is that you didn't have to have 15 slides to go and show your customer why you're different.
Definitely.
And that's the beauty of marketing, is that you constantly have to be on your feet at this space.
You have to. You have to keep on evolving. Yes. Don't do the same thing and expecting different results. You 100%. Know what I mean? I like it. So we spoke about the branding channel. We want to take a little bit back again, right? Yeah. Let's start now talking about the NPO, because then the NPO defines you, it defines who you are. If anybody goes out there and starts an NPO, I mean, this is almost a business with no money.
Yes.
Coming in, no funding.
Yes.
And being able to sustain it, it's amazing.
Yes, 100%.
So before you even tell me more about it, I'll say congratulations, because it takes a lot, to do that and being able to start an NPO. So let's delve into your NPO.
100%. So the NPOs, so we've got one called the Geek Girls Foundation. And the Geek Girls Foundation is heavily focused on women empowerment. Again, I want to create emphasis. It's not about dominance to males. It's basically provisioning equality.
Okay.
And how it all started was that my business partner Diksha at the time, when we spoke about what we want to get out of the NPO, it was based on research, and we found that there was a real problem having to be women leaders in this space, because she's very strong in her space as well. She is literally, they call her the digital diva. She of tech. Yeah. She really is, and she comes from the mining space a lot as well, and she's got a wealth of knowledge. But what we see is that male leaders are very dominant in the IT space. Yeah. So we wanted to go and look at the rest of the industries to see, okay, but where are we with the other industries as well? When we looked at all the industries, it was only the healthcare space, I think, with 56% dominance, because women are natural, nurturers. And they care well, so they obviously make good nurses, etc. And that will probably influence the data a bit. But when we look at everything else, they were below 50%. That includes the IT space. So as much as there's a lot of women leaders in the space, there's still not enough. So we said, okay, what we want to do, the focus would be to basically emphasize on molding women to realize their true potential. to understand that if you have never gotten the chance to become head of operations or head of IT, because it's always a male that's sitting in that space, then we want to make sure that the opportunity is equal enough so that when they're sitting with a male and they're both sitting there for the interview, we want to make sure that you, Alvin, if you're the interviewer, that you don't make the decision based on the facts that there's a male and a female here, and I think a male would be stronger in this space. You're making an assumption because the stats for so long have proven that males are stronger. But things are changing now, where women are becoming very strong leaders. So we want an equal opportunity, not to dominate, not to say we want to take over the stats in every industry. No, we just want to improve the quality. And that's what we basically go out to just try to do with women in the space. So you will see that like some of the work that I've done is that I go to like, recently I was also invited to the WITS youth leaders as well for women, young ladies. Super Sport was there, and there was a whole event going around. But it's me to come and share that experience that you guys can do it and start young, like have that mindset. Because lots of the ladies as well, or I would say, let's just say the youth, younger ones. I know my mom's generation.
Yeah.
Okay. And your mom's generation would have been the same as well, that women really weren't entitled to do a lot. They really had to push the boundaries a bit later in the stage. But there was a thing that, you know what, they sit at home, they cook, they do what they need to. Okay, I won't say my mom was in that space. So she really pushed the parameters there, in terms of becoming who she was in her career. But there was a lot of people that also kind of pushed that on their daughters, that no, you need to respect your husband. You need to do this. You need to do that. You need to serve them. No, we should eat together. We equal in the space. That's the type of vision we want to mold, is that we don't want our daughters to become that. We want our daughters to become successful, and they should follow their passion, their heart. And that's not to say they shouldn't disrespect their husbands. Don't get me wrong in what I just said. It's just an equality thing. That's all it is. So that's where the Geek Girls Foundation came from there. Connected Humanity came out from something very simple. Like I said, I'm a suicide survivor. And when you try to find your feet, you try to look for things that give you hope. You try to look for things that you find meaning to yourself. What does Kesh like? What does Kesh want to do? Who is Kesh? You try to go on a soul searching journey. And while I was on that journey, and it was a good friend at the time that kind of ignited something in me. She just took me to a temple the one day, just for a spiritual, just to go there, just relax and kind of just find myself that day. And while we were doing that entire journey, it was her and her boyfriend doing some sort of charity that day. So they got like a box, and they got like full of like the necessary groceries, just the needs, like your oil, your meal, whatever it may be. And they were just distributing it to people on the road. And obviously it was a community that needed it. And I was like, this is what I want to do. I think this is, I love this. This is like changing really my aura right now. And I think I want to focus a little bit more. And then I had, there was a friend that was not really very close to. We were just acquainted, and I saw him. This is now my business partner, who became my business partner. He just basically put an Insta story the one day, just saying, winter's approaching. Let's collect some clothes, etc., etc. And I said, hey, this is amazing. I really want to be a part of this. And then it stemmed into the conversation of an NPO, and that's how Connected Humanity was born. And then obviously I had partnered with Maidi afterwards. As an NPO, you have to have 3 directors. That's basically it. Yeah. We got into that space and we started trying to do things. And then the work got quite big, where we actually got a sponsorship, through my uncle at the time. He was working at Adcock Ingram, and we got like 1,000 units of sanitizers actually distributed. At that time, COVID was still a thing and moving. So we got that distributed to orphanages, and also cross-border to Mozambique as well, because we had some relations with the Mozambique government as well. And we did some great work, in terms of getting clothes amazing. And, food and things. Yeah. And we wanted to grow a little bit bigger than what we hoped to. But like you said, this is a business with no money. With no money. So everything's coming out of your pocket. And that's what lots of people have to realize.
Yeah. I can testify to that.
Yes.
We have survived our domain for so many years. Yes. We've been paying, at one point we'll be like, why are we paying for this domain?
Yeah. Those costs really tally up when they're coming from your pocket. Yeah. But I suppose when you're passionate about something, you always push through.
We are very passionate about our MPOs. That's exciting. I want to know, you spoke about mental health, and you spoke about being a suicide survivor, right? What does mental health mean in the IT space?
So for me, how I look at it is that the IT space doesn't shut down.
Yeah.
It's a 24/7 thing. We've got workaholics
Yeah.
that just, they don't know when to close their laptop.
Yeah.
And
I don't know whether I should say I'm one of them, but it's okay.
I'm one of them.
We can continue.
That's why I'm choosing my words
Yeah.
very, very carefully right now, because I am one of them.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's a passion.
Mm.
But sometimes we also don't realize that we do burn ourselves.
We do.
Yeah. And I think mental health does come into play there, because, you know, lots of these people who do work a bit late sometimes, it's not always the passion, it's because they also want to find some sort of distraction.
Yeah.
They either, something's not going too well at home. You know, personally, I know I distracted myself a lot like that over the years. You know, when I got very deep into my work because of that. And I think there's a lot of masks within this space where we don't show what we're going through, and mental health is a real thing. That is why I always try to push it with our organization, you know, just the business itself, to check in with our employees to see where they are. I know sometimes this conversation can definitely be manipulated in how people take advantage, because then they're like, oh no, but I'm going through this. But you're also getting paid 8 to 5, right? So you also have to deliver on your responsibility.
Yeah.
But we can also lay off our employees now and then and not come down too hard on them, knowing that possibly maybe one of them are going through a divorce, or someone has lost a child or something.
Yeah.
Those things do impact somebody. And even if they may not talk about it, the space moves so fast, you know, with
Very.
work, that we
Yeah.
tend to forget exactly where our employees are. And they are the heart of the business.
Mhm.
You know, without your employees, you're nothing.
Definitely. No,
Yeah.
I agree a lot to what you're saying. Yeah, I do agree. Okay, so let's talk about I'm gonna come back to marketing and tech. You mentioned something about Powerhouse. What is
Yes.
Powerhouse?
So the Powerhouse was born again. There was an event called Woman Takes IT to the Stage. It's in the Microsoft community.
Okay.
And this was maybe a couple months after my suicide attempt. So it was still very fresh. And I had shared my story, because that's what we were empowered to do, was to share our story, some sort of vulnerability, because that was what it was all about. And I had shared my story. And significantly at that point in time, every response that came through from the ladies, and including the male mentors at the time, were like, Kesh, you're such a powerhouse. Kesh, you're such a powerhouse. And I still have all those comments screenshotted, because literally it's there as evidence.
Yeah.
They kept on saying, you're powerhouse, you're
Yeah.
powerhouse. And I'm thinking, wow, that feels good. Like people really think that, you
Yeah,
know, about
Powerhouse.
me.
Yeah.
But the name was born from the Microsoft community themselves.
Okay.
And eventually it became my stage name. So when I had registered the brand of my own, besides the NPOs and everything else,
Yeah.
the Powerhouse was significantly there to basically speak mental health. And that's
Okay.
how it was born, because the Kesh prior to my suicide attempt was very submissive.
Okay.
I, you know, if I was in a relationship, for example, you know,
Yeah.
at the time and everything, it was more like, yes, I'm sorry, you know?
I get you.
Not like defending myself. And even in the professional space as well, I was still very, you know, like, yes, I'll do it now. Or, you know, not really saying like, no, you were supposed to do this. And now I just pick up the slack and move, you know?
Okay.
So I was very submissive. And it was also due to a woman leader at the time who was very strong. She was one of my first female bosses, you know, in the IT
Yeah.
space. And she said to me, when you wear heels, you wear power. And she said to me, because again, it was male dominated.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she said to me, you cannot go into that room and show them that you're scared. You have to show them that you're confident in what you're saying,
Yeah.
because they will take that for granted. And she taught me that. She taught me to be very, very in control.
Wow. Mm.
And that's where the power stemmed. And then it grew. And then when that whole suicide had, you know, when I reflect back on it, I felt very like weak. The fact that that I had to resort to me trying to kill myself, you know, because I couldn't really fight my problems.
Yeah.
Not to say that, you know what, it was something small. It was
Mhm.
something that really built up. But when I stemmed and I got back up, the
Yeah.
Powerhouse, I was just like, it really resonates with me. I really need to show other women that the power comes within.
Definitely.
And if you want to be a powerhouse, you need to believe in yourself. Your brand will never shine if you don't believe in your brand. So
True.
the fact that I believe in my brand, and today I wear my scarf very, very proudly on
Yeah.
my wrist. I don't try to tattoo it or cover it or feel ashamed of that scar. That is the logo of the Powerhouse. It's where it all started. So the Powerhouse means a lot to me. And lots of people, you know, when I meet them, they'll even say, oh, the Powerhouse. And I actually love it. I really
Yeah.
love it because they've recognized the brand. It's not just Kesh, it's Kesh the Powerhouse.
Yeah.
And, it's now living on all my social media. It's because I really want that brand to grow, because I want not just women, I
Yeah.
want males to find their own brand as well, to say, who is Alvin? What's your
Yeah.
brand? Because who are you? Tell me about you, not about the business maybe that you
Yeah.
share with your wife, but who are you? What is your purpose in life?
Yeah.
And that is what I'm trying to get out of it as well.
I get. So can we say the Powerhouse was reborn after this incident?
Yes.
That's quite
definitely.
interesting. So you're a new person now.
I'm a new person.
That's what you explained, and who you were before and who you are.
Two different people.
Two different people.
Two different people.
For the good, for the best, actually.
100%.
That's what happened. I mean, look at you. You're now the executive, manager in the branding and channel for, what's the name of the company again?
Major Holdings.
Major Holdings.
Yes.
That's amazing. You understand?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think that, it's not also, and let me also correct myself, it's not just the rebirth from the suicide point of view. There was a little bit of stuff that happened also in the IT space.
Yeah.
Like I said, this is a very dynamic space. It's a very ruthless space as well.
Yeah.
You have to have a strong gut to survive in the space. And there was definitely some injustice here and there. I mean, there was an acquisition that once took place as well, where I actually got demoted 5 levels down and couldn't understand why this even happened. I was just sitting there blue in the face, not understanding what could have possibly went wrong that I would be stripped off my title. And remember, this is post after my suicide. So if you're going to take away my career from me, you're really leaving me with nothing right now, right?
I get you.
That scenario really fueled me to basically make sure I create leaders that have the best interest for their employees, that they should not ever push someone down on the ladder where it's not needed. You need to empower your people to be the best. Tomorrow, if I have my team and one of them surpass me, I've done a fantastic job.
That's a good job.
I've done a fantastic job. But if they have not surpassed me, then there's something wrong in my leadership.
Yeah.
Something so wrong.
So I always tell our employees to say, look, if by any chance you want to leave this company,
yes,
you better go and leave and be with a better company.
Absolutely.
But if you go and sit at home, then there is something wrong.
There is something definitely wrong.
To sit at home or be unemployed.
Exactly.
We want to see you flourish from here,
I want to see them fly. I wish that there were certain leaders that were able to see me fly. And like when I also mentioned Kesh earlier, I mean, constantly he's someone that is still, clapping and being like, wow, you done this. He recently commented on one of my posts, I think. And I was just like, it's so nice for your leaders to see where you are, because they gave you the opportunity, or they ignited it. And, if you influence one more person like that, they become a leader. They naturally become a leader. Then that means they influence other people. Do you see that the ripple effect is definitely positive? If you create a bad leader, that leader is going to create more bad leaders. And it takes one rotten potato to spoil the lot.
Yeah.
And we don't want that. We want a level of assertiveness. Yes, you have to, lead with that. But you have to mold them to understand, when do I be assertive? When do I be friendly? When do I use my EQ? In certain spaces, when do I use my IQ? Because sometimes you don't know when, and then you end up messing up. But those are critical stuff. So if I have to start an internship program tomorrow, which is definitely on the cards for Major Holdings and stuff, is that I want to teach them the basics. If I have to start the program, you have to give them certain skills for them to survive as well. It's not about teaching them just the product, teaching them what the business does. But what do you need to be in the space? What is your growth plan? Do you want to be a leader? If not, then let's look at something else for you.
True.
But kind of support their journey in a more meaningful way is where we should actually focus on.
Interesting. So let's talk about in the tech environment. How are you keeping up with the changes in AI?
That is an interesting one.
Because, I mean, these changes affect the way you possibly say your services.
Yes.
How are you keeping up with those changes?
I think the one thing I'd like to comment on is that I think, when I look and I read certain articles and when I just log onto social media, I see the spiral effect of AI going positive and negative, right? For me, when I have to comment on AI right now, AI is not bad. It's the user behind it. It's what you do with AI that makes it look bad. Because if you misuse it, this is a learning model. This is something that's learning from humans. We have created it. So the more we interact with it, the more it gets intelligent. It starts to record that data. It starts to interact with that data. It starts to give out that data
True.
based on what you ask, it to do. So if I go something very similar, simple in the sense that, like, if I go onto Instagram, I'm seeing celebrities being trolled with AI. Like, stuff like, how do you prove your innocence? Because AI is becoming so real. You can't distinguish what's AI anymore and what's real anymore.
Yeah.
So it's becoming a little scary in that regard. And I think to myself, wow, but that's a user problem. It's in the wrong hands. In the IT space, we're trying to promote responsible AI. Is that when you're using AI, the compliance that comes with it, the governance that comes with it, how are you using it effectively in your business? How are you adopting it? And why are you using it? Because AI is supposed to make our lives a little easier.
True.
It's supposed to, be a smart tech that just, how can I say, maybe an intelligent tech that aids you in your day. But there's this cons to it as well, is that I think some people are just using ChatGPT very loosely these days. That, for example, when I'm seeing some articles on IT Web these times, and every time I see an article and it's from past colleagues or whatever, I can see that the article is totally ChatGPT driven. Like, you just put a topic in there, and then here we're posting it on IT Web right now.
Goodness.
This person has just wrote an article about this.
I think IT Web just caught some strays. Yeah. But
get what I'm saying? And then I also see it even maybe in the learning space currently. I feel the learning curve is not being pushed now.
Yeah.
Because now kids are resorting to ChatGPT. Your whole assignment is in there. And sometimes you may go and ask ChatGPT right now, could you please do my homework for me?
Then
Here is this. It'll be like, no, sorry, ethically, I can't do that right now. It's not right. Whatever it may be, it will respond. But you ask the question in a different way. And you say, what is the difference between, hardware and software?
Yeah.
And then it'll help you do your homework because you've asked it in a different way. Now you have not said to ChatGPT, this is homework related. You're asking a different question just so it gives you the answer. So I see it being manipulated everywhere. But like I'm saying, in the IT space, our responsibility is to promote responsible AI. AI is not a problem. It's what the users are making it out to be. So that's my opinion. I mean, there's no right and wrong in the space.
There is no right and wrong. Everyone who has come to the podcast have had an opinion on AI.
Yes.
Of course, everyone has spoken about the pros and cons.
Correct.
So I'm not here to judge anybody.
Yes, 100%. I mean,
I'm actually learning because remember, you're in a different space. I'm in a different space as well.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And there are things that I see in my space in digital marketing, and I'm like, oh, we can't use AI here.
Yes.
We have to take it back to to the basics.
To the basics.
You know what I mean? So I definitely respect your opinion in such a manner. Okay, cool. So if anyone wants to contact you, I understand the NPO, you definitely need members to join the NPO.
Yes.
If anyone wants to join one of your NPOs, how do they actually reach out to you?
So with the Geek Girls Foundation, they can reach out to the website. So normally we have some reach outs there. It comes directly.
So it's Geek?
The Geek Girls Foundation.
Geek Girls Foundation. And what is the URL?
It's the Geek Girls Foundation .org.
Okay.
I've got so many domains, guys. But if you go to any of my social medias, you'll find it there.
Yeah.
So it is, www.thegekgirlsfoundation.org.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And on Major Holdings, of course, you are responsible for the brand and channel. Assuming that there is a client that they need your Microsoft services, how do they get hold of you?
So very, very simple. We've also got to reach out with, we've got magenholdings.com, but with Magen Holdings, it's a different baby in this sense, I would say, because we've got subsidiary companies linked to it. So Magen Holdings is the group company, so that's where I sit.
Yeah.
We have 4 subsidiary companies. We've got Magen Cloud, Magen Software, Magen Solutions, which entails ERP and CRM, and we've got Magen Security. Then we've got another subsidiary that's linked not just directly to how we promote the stack as always, is Open Banking SA as well. And then we've got a sister company called 444. So you'll see our services being linked all the time there.
Yeah.
So each one has their own website. So that's why I'm saying it's a bit tricky to just say just the Magen Holdings one.
Yeah.
But when you go onto the Magen Holdings page, you'll find all the contact details for each one.
On the holdings, you see all the... a
If
subsidiary.
you're interested a little bit more in cloud, then
Yeah.
you will obviously go to Mention Cloud. But each one is very distinguished quite nicely as to what each subsidiary does, because we don't want one company to do everything, because then we tend to forget what is our focus and what do we do well. So each of those companies have its own focus so they can do it well. What we deliver to those customers, they understand that we are experts in cloud, we are experts in security, we are experts in the ERP CRM space, or a software. If you're doing custom dev development, we're not going to say, listen, it's not really our forte. We're telling you we've got a subsidiary company just focusing on this.
Yeah.
So it's segmented services, but in one group company that has zero red flags in it. We're not saying that, if you come through Mention Cloud now, that you won't be able to interact with the services security has. We will easily transition the customer through that opportunity journey.
Okay. So if you are responsible for brand and channel, are you responsible for all these subsidiaries?
Correct.
Basically? So you're sitting on the group side
I'm
of
on the
things.
group, yes.
Oh.
So as the group, I look at everything, all the strategies that entail brand, everything from a partnership level that's connected on the channel side runs through me. So for all these subsidiaries, as well as the sister company at this point.
Okay.
Yes.
So quick question. How long has been Mention Holdings in the industry?
So they're about 1 year old now.
Yeah.
So we've just got into the space. Like I said, the experts have been sitting with 444 for the longest of time. We've just transitioned into a more focused brand, being Mention Holdings. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's been here for about 1 year, but there's been a lot happening in that 1 year since then. So we've got a lot of opportunities that come to us. We just had our first event, like I mentioned, last month. Lots of success that's already starting on the ground, which we're very excited about.
I think it all depends on who are the people driving the brand.
Yes.
You can start in a year. I just want to make sure that someone who's dreaming of starting the IT company, they think, oh yeah, in a year we'll be
yes,
we'll be riding or something
100%.
like that. You know what I mean? It takes a lot of time, and of course it depends on who's behind the brand and who are the people that are working. And we're talking about you with your experience that you have, the network that you have grown over the years, which makes it easier to even grow Mention Holdings.
100%. I think that's exactly where my boss had come to me. I've actually gone to him though, just asking like, what's this Mention Holdings? Like I was very interested to understand the dynamic about the subsidiaries, because I love a well thought through idea and strategy. It has to have a lot of meaning. And when I had a couple of offers before I got to Mention Holdings, but I was very strategic in choosing Mention Holdings. It was because of the long-term goals that they have in place, in terms of what they want to do, in terms of, improvement from a sustainability point of view, from a community point of view, not just a business. So for all of that really kind of helped me make my decision in terms of saying, I believe in this brand. And where I am right now, even though it's relatively new, it's something I believe in, and I know it's going to become very big as time goes on. And just the mere interactions that we've had with customers recently, they've just told us our approach is different, which shows what we're doing is working. Because when you're in the space for so long, you'll understand what works and what doesn't work. So you don't want to repeat something just for the sake of doing it. You want to do it because it works. Because for me, if you had to ask me what a successful marketer or how they are probably being measured, I would tell you that if you're not showing any return on investment, you're not successful. You have to probably go and relook at it, because
that's very correct.
Because the department that spends a lot is marketing. And can you show whether you're really successful?
I wish you could advise small to medium enterprises that they need to spend more on marketing. Yes. But from where I stand, I mean, the budget for marketing is...
Yeah, I mean, what the outcome that they want, like if you look from a top-down approach, the outcome they want is massive.
Yeah,
it is like
definitely.
a Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
And then the budget they give you is like, I don't know, a Cressida or something, like a very old car, right?
You know what I mean?
So it's also, marketers have a tough job. It's not easy where they are. You have to constantly rethink things and where they have to deliver.
Sure.
But if you can't show the return on investment on what you're doing, and sometimes it's not always the marketing department's fault, but you need to find ways to push the boundary, because you don't always have to show return on investment in a monetary sense. It can be an engagement sense. It can be from a brand awareness sense. If you can increase your followers to 2,000 in the next couple months, that's return on investment.
That is return.
That's still, it doesn't always have to be a monetary thing. But if you can't have those measures in place to define what you've done for the brand and how you've brought business, then it's difficult for you to understand what's working. It's maybe your strategies are not working, or the person that's taking control of the team is not making sure that the impact is there.
Definitely. Kesh, I think we've spoken a lot in this episode, and I'm just happy that you agreed to come and sit down with me. I get very passionate about
Yes.
speaking to marketers and people in the tech industry, and that's where I am. I was brought up there, and I'm still there. Thank you very much for coming. Unless if you have a question for me, maybe you want to ask me a question, but I will definitely respond if you have any question.
I think we've interacted quite a bit where I understand you well enough.
Yeah.
The only thing I would love to say is that I really am proud of the journey that you're going on.
Thank you.
Especially with the podcast and getting all these professionals to come to a community to share their experiences is phenomenal, because I understand that when you believe in something, you started something very small and then it's going to grow with the type of engagement you get and the support you get. And like I said, I'm so inclined to supporting these initiatives is because it can't grow if someone doesn't support it, right?
It won't.
It has to start
grow.
somewhere.
So it has to start somewhere.
Exactly.
Definitely.
So
Yeah.
I'm very proud of what you're doing, and definitely there's lots of stuff that we will connect on and partner on.
Yeah.
And I just want to say thank you to everybody that's also viewing, and just for you inviting me, giving me this opportunity. If anybody, like you mentioned, I said I had too many domains.
Yeah.
Please, definitely all the details are on my social media handles, and they're most welcome to reach out to me. I'm quite active on my social media.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Thank you, guys. And don't forget to subscribe and share and comment and engage. Thank you very much. See you in the next episode.